I said at the outset that I wanted to ask you about UAPs, and I don't want to
Oh yeah,
cheapen. I don't want to cheapen the conversation. I ask because people I know in the Air Force who have seen UAPs
yeah.
and have interacted with them to some degree have told me they have seen them going into the sea. And I read several years ago because it was just something that I think I came across on the internet about Russian submariners reporting things under the ocean that they couldn't really explain. So
Yeah.
seeing on radar, not radar, sorry, seeing on sonar or listening on sonar something very rapidly accelerate, very rapidly change the distance between where they are and where they were. And so, did you have any experience of that? Do you have any views on that? Is that something that was a topic of a conversation amongst you and your
Yeah.
colleagues?
Well, back then we didn't call them UAPs when I was in, but there are detections usually in the lower areas of the sonar, looking down, not up, that don't make sense. And we've always described those in the sonar logs because everything's logged, right? Handwritten on paper when I was in, that those were environmental detections. We could classify them as earthquakes, which they probably were, but we could not definitively say that because an earthquake is such low frequency, you can have multiple earthquakes happening at once and you're still seeing it on your sonar arrays, and those earthquakes can be a long ways away. um, and we also have the fast moving contacts like you're talking about, and they're distinctive and they're repetitive, and because they have a pattern, sometimes they're not even there, but when they are there, uh, you could say that they're uh, environmental because it's got a cyclic rhythm to it, like something natural might have. But the biggest thing is nothing in the sonar logs, at least whenever I was in, was ever unknown. It was never not classified on paper, so that if it is ever investigated in the future, and this is me speculating at this point, by a Freedom of Information Act, if somebody got a hold of those logs, every contact would have a name: earthquake, environmental noise, biologic. It never once would say aliens from Mars. I guarantee you that. Um, but I do have a story about this that I was not in sonar when it happened, but that almost makes it more interesting from my point of view. Um, when I was on our ballistic missile submarine, which is one of the quietest things in the ocean, and not bragging, it just is. And we were on patrol, so we're in our quietest lineup, and we're minding our own business. And we had been in this position for weeks. Nobody knows where we are. Even the squadron that tells us where to do our ballistic missile patrol gives us a box the size of Montana or bigger, the western coastline of the United States. It's huge how big this box is. So no one knows where we are except us. We have to know where we are so the missiles know where to start from. So while we're doing that, the we're down in the wardroom doing training, and it's not normal for the enlisted to be in the wardroom, but there's limited spaces on board any submarine to train a group of people, like a sonar division that's 10 to 12 people. Wardroom was the only space we had available. So we're down there. We have me, the sonar chief. We have the WEPs is with us because it's high level training. Anyway, the whole submarine shudders like something akin to, your nuclear audience might know, shifting the coolant pumps. I don't want to explain what that is, but it shuddered the entire submarine as if something had maybe brushed up against us. Uh, but we knew it wasn't. We knew immediately we had not shifted the coolant pumps because we didn't do other things that would be associated with that. And we're in the wardroom with the open mic. We know we can hear what's going on in control as we're doing our training. So no orders were given, no evolutions are underway, and our 18,000 ton, or it might be even more than that, heavy ass submarine, it shakes like somebody bumped it. So was it a collision? That's the first thing we all think of as sonarmen. Holy crap, who just ran into us? And it's big enough to move 18,000 tons. Whatever bumped into us is big. So we go running up to sonar. The WEPs gets on the phone. He's got communications right there with the officer of the deck to figure out what the hell just happened. By the time, and I don't stick around to hear that conversation, I go into sonar with the sonar chief to look at the displays before we even ask what the hell's going on. The displays are clean, like nothing moved, including own ship. if we moved, we would see the cursors move. The cursor that marks our baffles, for example, would move with our course change. And there was absolutely no movement there. And the officer of the deck who didn't give any kind of orders did not notice any contact, has no idea what that was, but something came up alongside us, apparently. I'm guessing, I don't know this, moved us briefly, almost like it was running us over as if we weren't even there, and then kept on going. And there was nothing on sonar. We went over that sonar clip over and over again. We sent it to O&I. We were like, what the hell was this? We never got an answer from O&I. And to this day, I can't sit here and tell you what it was because I wasn't in sonar when it happened. But we keep history and logs and recordings of everything. Going through the recordings, we have no idea. We dismissed it at the time because, again, we didn't call it UAPs. We said, well, maybe it was a really big whale having a party with his girlfriend, which probably not that either. But I don't know what it was, but is the closest thing. If there is a UAP, maybe they decided to do a drive-by on us to have some fun. Maybe they have a sense of humor out there. Let's hope they're friendly.
Wow. Was that an unnerving experience?
It was more shocking than anything. And once I saw the sonar screen was clean and we actually hadn't moved, but it felt like we did, that's a little surreal because I know what we felt and we all felt it. There was 10 of us in the wardroom, officers, senior enlisted and junior. And so we all knew what happened. Even the officer of the deck felt it. Everybody felt it. So it definitely happened, but we had no evidence of it, which was strange because the sonar system would record anything that gets close to you. I mean, assuming it makes noise.
Wow.
But it didn't record that, and it didn't record us moving. So it's just a strange incident. I certainly am not going to sit here and say it was a UAP. That's ridiculous. But it was just something unexplained that will follow me the rest of my life, and I'll never know the answer.
Wow.
But it is a fun story to share that sometimes you don't know the answer. I'm still inside my submarine, and something weird just bumped into us. And thank God it wasn't another sub, right? Because that would have been a nightmare, you know.